I was in the middle of a staff meeting when someone knocked on the conference room door. My boss looked annoyed at the interruption, but then a man in a suit walked in holding a manila envelope. "Is there a Sarah Mitchell here?" he asked, looking around the room. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what this was. Everyone was staring at me. My coworkers, my boss, the clients we were meeting with. All eyes on me as I stood up on shaking legs. The man walked over and handed me the envelope. "You've been served," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then he turned and walked out. I opened it right there because I was too shocked to think straight. Divorce papers. My husband Derek was divorcing me. And he'd sent his lawyer to serve me at work, in front of my entire team, during one of the biggest client meetings of the year. But here's what Derek didn't know. I'd been expecting this. And I had an envelope of my own ready to go. One that was going to destroy every lie he'd built his case on. I need to back up and explain how we got here. Derek and I had been married for 11 years. We met in college, got married right after graduation, and spent our 20s building what I thought was a good life together. He worked in finance, I worked in marketing. We bought a house in the suburbs, had a dog, did all the normal married couple things. From the outside, we looked perfect. But for the last 3 years, things had been falling apart. Slowly at first, then faster and faster until I could barely recognize the man I married. It started small. Derek would come home late from work without calling. He'd be on his phone constantly, texting and smiling at the screen, then putting it away quickly when I came into the room. He started dressing better, wearing cologne, going to the gym more. All the classic signs, right? But when I asked him about it, he'd get defensive. "Why are you always accusing me of something?" he'd say. "I'm just trying to take better care of myself. Is that a crime?" I wanted to believe him. I really did. So I convinced myself I was being paranoid, that I was the problem for not trusting him. Then about 2 years ago, Derek started traveling more for work. Weekend trips, week-long conferences, overnight meetings. He'd come home with stories about boring presentations and hotel conference rooms. And I believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. But I wasn't stupid. I noticed things, like how our credit card bills started showing charges from expensive restaurants in cities where he was supposedly working. When I asked him about it, he said he was taking clients out, that it was part of his job. That made sense. Finance guys do that, right? Then there were the hotel charges. Not just the room, but room service, spa services, pay-per-view movies, hundreds of dollars on top of the room rate. When I asked about those, he got angry. "Do you want me to sit in a hotel room and stare at the walls?" he snapped. "I work hard. I deserve to relax when I'm traveling." So I let it go. But I started paying more attention. Started taking screenshots of our credit card statements. Started keeping records of his travel schedule. Not because I was planning to do anything with it. Just because something in my gut told me I might need it later. About 1.5 years ago, Derek suggested we open separate bank accounts. He said it would be easier for taxes, that we both made good money and should have our own financial independence. It seemed weird to me after 9 years of sharing everything, but he made it sound so logical, so mature. "We're not college kids anymore," he said. "We don't need to pool every penny. Let's each have our own money and contribute equally to household expenses. It's what modern couples do." I agreed because I didn't want to seem controlling or old-fashioned. So we each opened our own accounts, set up automatic transfers for the mortgage and bills, and kept our salaries separate. Derek seemed happier after that, more relaxed. I thought maybe it had been a good idea after all. But then about 1 year ago, Derek started talking about how stressed he was at work, how demanding his job was, how he needed a break. He suggested taking separate vacations. "We don't have the same interests anymore," he said. "You like beaches and relaxing. I like adventure, travel, and hiking. Why don't we each take a trip doing what we want? It'll be good for us to have some independence. It hurt, I'm not going to lie. The idea that my husband would rather vacation without me. But he made it sound so reasonable. So I agreed. He went on a 2-week hiking trip in Colorado, or at least that's what he told me. I went to visit my sister in Florida for a week. When he came back, he seemed different, distant. He started sleeping in the guest room, saying I snored and he needed better sleep for work. He stopped kissing me goodbye in the morning, stopped saying, I love you. When I tried to talk to him about it, he said I was being needy. We've been married for 10 years, he said. We're past the honeymoon phase. This is just what marriage looks like. But I knew that wasn't true. Marriage doesn't have to mean living like roommates. It doesn't have to mean your husband can barely stand to be in the same room as you. So, about 8 months ago, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Monica. She came highly recommended from a friend who'd gone through a messy divorce. I met her at a coffee shop and told her everything. The late nights, the phone calls, the unexplained expenses, the separate vacations, all of it. I just need to know, I told her. I need to know if I'm crazy or if something is really going on. You're not crazy, Monica said gently. And based on what you're telling me, something is definitely going on. The question is whether you want proof. I want proof, I said. Because if he's cheating, I need to know. And if he's not, I need to know that too so I can stop driving myself insane. Monica nodded. Okay. I'll need some information from you. His schedule, his license plate number, photos, places he frequents. And it's not cheap. This kind of surveillance runs about $1,500 a day. I nearly choked on my coffee. $1,500 a day? But then I thought about it. I made good money. I had my own bank account now. And I needed to know the truth. Do it, I said. Over the next 3 weeks, Monica followed Derek. She sent me regular updates, photos, detailed reports of where he went and who he met. And what she found was worse than I imagined. Derek wasn't just having an affair, he was living a whole second life. He had a girlfriend named Ashley. She was 26, 8 years younger than me, worked as a personal trainer at the gym Derek had joined the year before. They'd been together for over 2 years. 2 years. That meant he'd been cheating on me for almost our entire rough patch. Everything I thought was a marriage problem was actually just him being checked out because he had someone else. But it got worse. Derek wasn't just spending time with Ashley. He was spending money on her. A lot of money. He'd rented her an apartment downtown, a nice 1-bedroom in an expensive building. He was paying her rent. $1,500 a month. For 2 years. That's $36,000. He'd bought her a car, a brand new BMW. Monica had photos of him at the dealership with her, both of them smiling, her kissing him in front of the shiny new car. $45,000. He took her on vacations. The Colorado hiking trip? He wasn't alone. Ashley was with him. Monica found their social media posts from the trip before Ashley made her Instagram private. Photos of them hiking together, having dinner together, sharing a hotel room together. And it wasn't just Colorado. There were trips to Mexico, to Vegas, to Miami. All the times he said he was traveling for work, he was with her. Monica estimated he'd spent over $100,000 on Ashley in 2 years. $100,000. Our money. Money that should have been going to our savings, our retirement, our future. He'd been burning through it on his mistress. I felt sick reading the reports, seeing the photos. Watching my husband kiss another woman, hold another woman, live a life with another woman while coming home to me and acting like I was the problem, like I was needy for wanting basic affection from my own husband. But I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because Monica gave me advice that saved me. Don't let him know you know, she said. Not until you've prepared. Get copies of everything. Bank statements, credit card bills, tax returns, property deeds, every financial document you can find. Open your own bank account at a different bank and start moving money into it. Little amounts he won't notice. Talk to a divorce lawyer and find out what your rights are. Build your case. Then, when you're ready, when you have everything you need, that's when you confront him. So, that's what I did. I became a detective in my own house. Every time Derek was in the shower or asleep or out with Ashley, pretending to be at work, I was going through his things. I found his other phone, the one he kept hidden in his gym bag. I found login information for a secret email account. I found receipts, bank statements, credit card bills for accounts I didn't even know existed. It turned out Derek had been hiding money from me. He'd opened credit cards in just his name and maxed them out on Ashley. He'd taken out a personal loan for $50,000. He'd cashed out half his $401k early, paying huge penalties, just to have more money to spend on her. We were supposed to have almost $200,000 in savings and retirement accounts. We had less than $60,000. He'd burned through $140,000 in 2 years. And I had no idea because we had separate accounts. Because I trusted him, I copied everything. Every document, every receipt, every bank statement, every text message from his secret phone, every email from his secret account. I bought an external hard drive and saved it all. I took photos with my phone. I made copies of copies. I wanted to make sure that no matter what happened, I had proof. I also followed Monica's advice and started protecting my own money. I opened an account at a completely different bank, one Derek would never use. I started having my paychecks split, most of it going to our joint expenses like always, but 15% going to my secret account. Over 4 months, I saved about $12,000 that Derek didn't know about. I met with a divorce lawyer. Her name was Patricia. She was in her 50s, tough as nails, and she did not mess around. "You've done good work," she said, looking through all my documentation. "This is going to help you a lot. He's been depleting marital assets. The court isn't going to look kindly on that." "What do I do?" I asked. "We file first," Patricia said, "before he knows you're on to him. We file for divorce, we request an immediate restraining order on all marital assets so he can't spend or hide anything else. We go for the throat." "When?" I asked. "As soon as you're ready. Do you have somewhere you can stay? Because once we file, things are going to get ugly. He's going to be angry. Men like Derek, men who've been living secret lives, they don't react well when they get caught." I thought about it. My sister had a spare room. I could stay with her. But leaving the house felt like giving up, like letting him win. "What if I want to stay in the house?" I asked. Patricia smiled. "Even better. We file. We request that he be the one to leave since he's the one who committed adultery and depleted assets. The house is in both your names. You have every right to stay there. Let him go live with his girlfriend in the apartment he's been paying for." That sounded perfect. Let Derek deal with the consequences of his choices. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it. Let's file." "One more thing," Patricia said. "Don't tell him. Don't hint at it. Don't fight with him about it. Don't give him any warning. We want this to be a complete surprise. That way he doesn't have time to hide anything else or make up lies." We hit him fast and hard. So I went home and pretended everything was normal. Pretended I didn't know my husband was a cheating liar who'd stolen from our marriage to fund his affair. Pretended I still believed his excuses and his stories. I smiled when he came home. Made dinner. Asked about his day. Acted like the oblivious wife he thought I was. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But then Derek made a mistake. He got cocky. He got comfortable, and he decided to file for divorce first. I came home from work one day about 6 months ago, and he was sitting at the kitchen table with a weird expression on his face. We need to talk, he said. I sat down, my heart pounding. Was he finally going to confess? Was he going to tell me about Ashley? I'm not happy, he said. I haven't been happy for a long time. I think we've grown apart. I think we want different things. I think we should get a divorce. I stared at him. After everything he'd done, after all his lies, he was trying to make this seem mutual, like it was just a natural growing apart and not him cheating and stealing. Are you seeing someone else? I asked, wanting to see if he'd finally be honest. No, he said without hesitation. I just don't think we're compatible anymore. I think we'd both be happier apart. He looked me right in the eye and lied. And that's when I knew I needed to destroy him. If that's what you want, I said quietly, then okay, we can get divorced. He looked relieved. Really? You're not going to fight me on one? This? What would be the point? I said. If you're not happy, you're not happy. I'm not going to force you to stay married to me. Thank you, he said, and he actually seemed grateful. I was worried this would be difficult. I'm glad we can be adults about this. Adults. He wanted to act like an adult while lying and cheating and stealing. Sure. So how do we do this? I asked. Do we need lawyers? I already talked to one, Derek said. He said it's pretty straightforward since we don't have kids. We split everything 50-50 and go our separate ways. 50-50. He wanted to split everything 50-50 after spending $140,000 on his mistress. The audacity. Okay, I said. That seems fair. He smiled, probably thinking I was an idiot. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. Should be ready in a few weeks, I nodded, and then I went upstairs and called Patricia. He's filing first, I told her. What do we do? Let him, she said. Let him file. Let him show his hand. Then we counter with everything we have. Trust me, Sarah, we're going to win this. So, I waited. And a few weeks later, Derek came home with papers for me to sign. My lawyer drew these up, he said, handing me a folder. It's pretty simple. We split the house proceeds, split the savings, go our separate ways. Clean break. I looked through the papers. He was proposing we sell the house and split the profit, split our savings accounts, split our retirement funds, everything 50-50. No mention of the money he'd spent, no mention of Ashley, no mention of the credit cards and loans and $401K cash outs. He was trying to hide all of it. Can I have my own lawyer look at this? I asked. Just to make sure I understand it? Derek's face tightened. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. I lied. It's just a big decision. I want to make sure I understand what I'm signing. He didn't like it, but he agreed. Fine. Have a lawyer look at it. But let's try to move this along. The sooner we can finalize this, the sooner we can both move on with our lives. Move on with his life with Ashley. That's what he meant. I took the papers to Patricia. She read through them and laughed. Actually laughed. This is insulting, she said. He's proposing to split assets 50-50 after depleting marital funds by over $100,000. He's not disclosing his debt. He's not disclosing his affair. This is fraud. What do we do? I asked. We file our own petition, Patricia said. We request full disclosure of all assets and debts. We request an accounting of all money spent in the last 3 years. We provide evidence of his affair and his spending. And we request that he be held accountable for depleting marital assets. Will it work? I asked. It'll work, Patricia promised. Because we have proof. We have documentation. We have everything we need to show the court exactly what he's been doing. He walked into this, thinking you were going to roll over. He's about to find out how wrong he is. We filed our petition the next day, but we didn't serve him at home. Patricia had a better idea. Let's serve him at work, she said. Just like he tried to humiliate you by having you served during a meeting. Let's return the favor. I wasn't sure about that. It seemed cruel. But then I thought about Derek making his lawyer serve me in front of my coworkers and clients, about how humiliated I'd been, about how he'd tried to intimidate me into signing his fraudulent agreement. Do it, I said. So that's what we did. Patricia had a process server go to Derek's office and serve him with our counter petition in front of his entire team. He called me immediately, screaming, "What the hell, Sarah? You had me served at work? In front of everyone?" "You did the same thing to me," I said calmly. "That's different. I was just trying to move things along. You're trying to embarrass me." "No, Derek. I'm trying to get a fair divorce, one where you don't get to hide all the money you spent on your girlfriend." Silence. Dead silence. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally said. "Yes, you do, Ashley. The personal trainer, the apartment you've been paying for, the car you bought her, the vacations, all of it. I know everything." More silence. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. "Long enough," I said. "Long enough to document everything. Long enough to have proof. Long enough to build a case. You thought I was stupid, Derek. You thought I'd just sign your papers and let you walk away with everything. You were wrong." He hung up. And then all hell broke loose. Derek hired a better lawyer. Some guy named Richard who had a reputation for being ruthless. Richard immediately filed motions trying to dismiss our evidence, claiming the private investigator had invaded Derek's privacy. Patricia shut that down fast. Mr. Mitchell was in public spaces with his mistress, Patricia argued in court. There's no expectation of privacy when you're kissing someone in a restaurant parking lot or posting photos on social media. The evidence is admissible, the judge agreed. Then Richard tried to argue that Derek's spending was none of the court's business since we had separate accounts. Separate accounts don't negate marital assets, Patricia countered. Mr. Mitchell earned that money during the marriage. It's community property. And he depleted community property to fund an extramarital affair. That's relevant to the division of assets. The judge agreed with that too. Derek was furious. He started calling me constantly, leaving angry voicemails about how I was destroying his reputation, ruining his career, making his life hell. I didn't respond. Patricia told me not to engage with him at all. Let him dig his own grave, she said, and he did. At one court hearing, Derek actually admitted to the affair on the stand. "Yes, I was seeing Ashley," he said, "but my marriage was already over. Sarah and I hadn't been happy for years. Ashley made me happy. I don't see why I should be punished for finding happiness." Patricia pounced on that. "So you admit to spending over $100,000 of marital funds on your girlfriend?" "I spent my money on her," Derek said stubbornly. "Money I earned. During your marriage to Mrs. Mitchell," Patricia said. "Money that should have been contributing to your marital household and savings. Money that you hid from your wife while you lived a double life." "Is that correct?" Derek's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. Derek had admitted to everything. The judge was not impressed. At all. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, "you stood before this court and took an oath to tell the truth. And what you've told me is that you engaged in an extramarital affair, spent over $100,000 of marital funds on your mistress, lied to your wife about your finances, and then tried to hide all of this in your divorce petition. Is that accurate?" Derek looked pale. "Your Honor, I made mistakes. You made choices," the judge interrupted. "Bad choices. Expensive choices. And now we're here to determine how to fairly divide assets when you've already depleted those assets significantly." That's when Patricia handed the judge our financial analysis. She'd hired a forensic accountant to go through everything, every transaction, every credit card statement, every bank record. The accountant had created a detailed report showing exactly where every penny had gone. Derek had spent $147,000 on Ashley over 2.5 years. That included rent, the car, vacations, gifts, dinners, jewelry, everything. $147,000. He'd also taken on $68,000 in debt. Credit cards, personal loans, all of it used to fund his affair and hidden from me. Meanwhile, I had contributed a full share to our household expenses. Never missed a payment, never spent frivolously, never lied about money. The accountant's report made it very clear who had been responsible and who had been reckless. The judge read through everything carefully. Then he looked at Derek. "Mr. Mitchell, you've depleted marital assets by over $140,000. You've taken on significant debt that your wife was unaware of. You've lied, you've cheated, and you've tried to hide all of this from the court. I am not inclined to reward that behavior." Derek's lawyer tried to argue something about no-fault divorce, about how the affair shouldn't matter in asset division. But the judge shut him down. "This isn't about punishing Mr. Mitchell for having an affair," the judge said. "This is about the fact that he depleted marital assets, that he spent community property on his mistress, that he took on debt in secret. Those actions have financial consequences." Then the judge delivered his ruling. The house would be sold and the proceeds split, but Derek would have to pay back his share of the money he'd depleted before getting his half. That meant of the $147,000 he spent, he owed me back half of that, $73,000. Since our house equity was about $180,000, and we'd each get $90,000 in a normal split, Derek's $90,000 would be reduced by the $73,000 he owed me. He'd get $17,000. I'd get $163,000. The savings accounts would be split normally, except Derek had to disclose all accounts and all debt. When everything was accounted for, we had about $60,000 in actual savings, but Derek had $68,000 in debt from his affair. The judge ruled that the debt was Derek's responsibility alone, since he'd incurred it without my knowledge and for his personal benefit. So I got $30,000 from savings, he got $30,000, but also kept all his debt. Retirement accounts were split 50-50, but again, Derek had already cashed out half his $401k. The penalty he'd paid for early withdrawal was his responsibility. So we each got what was left in our retirement accounts, which came out to about $40,000 each. All told, I walked away with about $230,000. Derek walked away with about $87,000 and $68,000 in debt. Net, he got $19,000. For 11 years of marriage, he got $19,000. The judge also ordered Derek to pay my legal fees, since his fraud and deception had necessitated extensive legal work. That was another $30,000. When the ruling came down, Derek looked like he'd been hit by a truck. He'd expected to walk away with at least $90,000 plus half the savings in retirement. Instead, he got basically nothing. "This is bullshit," he said loudly in the courtroom. "Mr. Mitchell," the judge said coldly, "you made your choices. You spent your money. You lied to your wife and to this court. These are the consequences of your actions. If you have a problem with this ruling, you're welcome to appeal, but I doubt you'll find a more sympathetic judge. This court is adjourned." Outside the courtroom, Derek tried to talk to me. "Sarah, this is insane. You're taking everything." "No, Derek. I'm taking what I'm entitled to, what I earned. You're the one who took everything and spent it on your girlfriend." "I'll appeal this," he threatened. "I'll fight this." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Spend more money you don't have on lawyers. See how that works out for you." His face was red with anger. "You've destroyed me. You've taken everything." "You destroyed yourself," I said. "You're the one who cheated. You're the one who lied. You're the one who spent $150,000 on a woman you'd known for 2 years instead of investing in your marriage of 11 years. You made your choices, Derek. These are just the consequences." I walked away and didn't look back. The divorce was finalized a month later. The house sold quickly in a hot market. When all was said and done, after legal fees and closing costs, I netted about $215,000. I bought myself a small condo. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom in a nice neighborhood. Paid for it in cash. No mortgage, no debt, completely mine. I still had about $100,000 left that I invested carefully. Derek, meanwhile, was drowning. He had to pay me, pay his lawyer, pay off his credit cards and personal loans. His debt collectors were calling constantly. I heard through mutual friends that Ashley left him once the money ran out. Turns out, she was more interested in the BMW and the nice dinners than in Derek himself. Who could have guessed? Last I heard, Derek was living in a studio apartment and driving a used Honda. He'd had to take a rote, second job to cover his debt payments. His career took a hit when word got around about what happened. Apparently, his company didn't appreciate him spending work hours managing his affair and his fraud. Me? I'm doing great. Better than great, actually. The divorce freed me in ways I didn't expect. I'm not constantly worried about money anymore. I'm not walking on eggshells around someone who's lying to me. I'm not questioning my sanity or my worth. I started dating again a few months ago. Nothing serious, just coffee dates here and there. It's nice to be with men who actually want to spend time with me, who aren't constantly checking their phones or making excuses to leave early, who value honesty and communication instead of lies and secrets. My friends have been amazing through all of this. They rallied around me when I told them what happened. Some of them admitted they'd suspected Derek was cheating but didn't know how to tell me. I don't blame them. I probably wouldn't have believed them if they'd tried. The best part, though, the absolute best part? About 6 months after the divorce was final, I got a friend request on social media from Ashley, Derek's ex-mistress. I almost didn't accept it, but curiosity got the better of me. She sent me a message almost immediately. "I'm so sorry for what I did," it said. I didn't know he was married at first. By the time I found out, I was already involved with him, and he told me you guys were separated. He lied to me too. I just wanted you to know that. I didn't respond at first. What was there to say? But then she sent another message. "He's trying to get me back, keeps calling and texting, saying he made a mistake, saying we were good together. But I saw what he did to you in the divorce. How he lied and spent all that money. If he did that to his wife of 11 years, what would he do to me? Thank you for fighting him in court. It showed me who he really is." I did respond to that one. "You're welcome." And, yes, if he lied to me, he'll lie to you. Find someone honest, Ashley. Someone who values you enough to not lie. She thanked me, and that was that. I never heard from her again. But knowing that Derek's grand plan had completely fallen apart, that the affair he destroyed his marriage for had ended badly, that the money he spent didn't buy him happiness or love, that was satisfying in a way I can't quite describe. I ran into Derek's mom about a year after the divorce. She apologized to me, told me she was ashamed of her son's behavior, told me I'd always been a good wife to him, and he'd thrown it away for nothing. "He calls me sometimes," she said, "complains about money, about how unfair the divorce was. I told him he got exactly what he deserved. I raised him better than that. I taught him to be honest and loyal. I don't know where I went wrong." "You didn't go wrong," I told her. "Derek made his own choices. Those are on him, not you." She hugged me and cried. "I wish he'd chosen better. I wish he'd chosen you." "Me too," I said. "But he didn't, and that's okay. I'm better off without him." And I meant it, every word. 2 years out from the divorce now, I can honestly say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not the betrayal, not the lies, not the pain of discovering my husband had been living a double life, but the freedom that came after, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself, that I could fight back when someone tried to take advantage of me, that I was stronger and smarter than I ever knew. Derek tried to intimidate me by having me served at work. He thought embarrassing me in front of my coworkers would make me more likely to just sign his fraudulent papers and go away quietly. He thought I'd be too ashamed or too scared to fight back. He thought wrong. When I handed that envelope to his lawyer in court, the one full of bank statements and credit card bills and photos from the private investigator, the one that proved every lie he'd told, I watched his face go white. I watched him realize that his carefully constructed story was falling apart, that I wasn't the stupid, trusting wife he thought I was. I'd spent months preparing, documenting, building my case, and when the moment came, I was ready. That's the thing about underestimating people. You never know what they're capable of until you push them too far. Derek pushed me too far, and he paid for it. I'm not saying revenge is always the answer. I'm not saying you should spend months secretly investigating your spouse just in case they might be cheating. But I'm saying that if someone tries to destroy you, if someone tries to steal from you and lie to you and throw you away like you're worthless, you have every right to fight back. You have every right to demand what you're owed. You have every right to stand up for yourself. Derek thought he'd won. He had his mistress, his secret life, his plan to divorce me and take half of everything, while hiding what he'd already spent. He thought he was so smart, so careful, so in control. But he forgot something important. He forgot that I was smart too, that I was capable too, that I had my own power, even if I'd spent years letting him make me feel small. The day that process server walked into my meeting and handed me divorce papers in front of everyone, I felt humiliated, angry, scared. But I also felt something else. Determined. Derek had made his move. Now it was my turn. And when I made my move, when I handed over that envelope with all my evidence, when I watched the judge rule in my favor, when I saw Derek realize he'd lost everything he'd schemed for, I felt vindicated. Not happy exactly. The end of an 11-year marriage isn't something to celebrate, but vindicated, satisfied, like justice had been served. People ask me sometimes if I regret how hard I went after him in the divorce, if I feel bad that he ended up with almost nothing. And the answer is no, I don't regret it. And I don't feel bad. Derek made choices. He chose to cheat. He chose to lie. He chose to spend marital funds on his mistress. He chose to hide assets. He chose to file for divorce with a fraudulent petition. Every single step of the way, he had opportunities to be honest, to be fair, to do the right thing. And every single time, he chose deception instead. I simply chose to defend myself, to fight for what was mine, to refuse to be a victim of his schemes. That's not revenge. That's justice. And if Derek had been honest from the start, if he'd come to me and said, "I'm unhappy, I want a divorce, let's split everything fairly," things would have been different. I still would have been hurt, but I would have respected his honesty. We could have divided assets fairly, gone our separate ways, maybe even stayed friendly for the sake of mutual friends. But he didn't do that. He chose to lie and scheme and try to cheat me out of what I'd earned over 11 years of marriage. So I chose to fight back with everything I had, and I won. My advice to anyone going through something similar? Document everything. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let someone gaslight you into thinking you're paranoid or crazy. Pay attention to the signs. And if you discover betrayal, don't confront until you're prepared. Get your evidence, protect your assets, talk to a lawyer, build your case. Then strike fast and hard. Don't let someone serve you divorce papers at work and intimidate you into signing away your rights. Don't let someone's lies and fraud go unchallenged. Stand up for yourself. Fight for what you've earned, and don't feel guilty about it. You deserve justice. You deserve fairness. You deserve to walk away from a bad marriage with your head held high and your finances intact. Derek learned that lesson the hard way. He thought he could have his cake and eat it too. He thought he could cheat and steal and lie and walk away clean. He thought I'd be too ashamed or too scared to fight back when he had me served at work. Instead, I came prepared with an envelope that destroyed every lie he'd told. And I watched his whole case collapse in court. Sometimes I think about that moment when the process server walked into my meeting. How shocked I was, how humiliated, how everyone stared at me. My boss looked uncomfortable. My coworkers looked curious. The clients we were meeting with looked confused. I excused myself from the meeting, went to the bathroom, and called Patricia. "He served me at work," I told her, my voice shaking. "In front of everyone." "Good," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Now we know what kind of game he's playing. He's trying to intimidate you, trying to embarrass you into submission. It's not going to work." "Everyone saw," I said. "Everyone knows. So what?" Patricia said. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. You didn't cheat. You didn't lie. You didn't steal. He did. And when we're done with him in court, everyone's going to know that too. Let him try to embarrass you. We're about to embarrass him a whole lot worse." She was right. When Derek's lawyer stood up in court and presented his version of events, the one where Derek was just an unhappy husband seeking a fair divorce, Patricia destroyed it piece by piece. "Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell's petition claims there are no extraordinary circumstances in this marriage. No fault on either side, just two people who grew apart. But that's not accurate, is it, Mr. Mitchell?" Derek shifted uncomfortably on the witness stand. "I don't know what you mean." "You don't know what I mean," Patricia repeated. She pulled out a photo from my envelope. "This is you with Ashley Thompson on March 15th of last year. At a restaurant in Miami. A restaurant where you spent $340 on dinner. Does this look like two people who've grown apart from their spouses? Or does this look like an affair?" Derek's lawyer objected. "Your Honor, my client's personal relationships are relevant when marital funds are being spent on them," the judge interrupted. "Overruled." "Answer the question, Mr. Mitchell." I was traveling for work and I ran into a friend." "A friend," Patricia said. "Let's talk about this friend. Ashley Thompson, age 26, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. The same gym you joined 2 years ago. The same gym where you told your wife you were just working out. Is that correct?" "I did work out there. But you also started a romantic relationship with Miss Thompson. A relationship that lasted over 2 years. A relationship you funded with marital assets. Isn't that true?" Derek looked at his lawyer for help. His lawyer was flipping through papers, looking for something to object to. But Patricia had been careful. Every question was relevant. Every piece of evidence was properly obtained and documented. "Mr. Mitchell, I asked you a question," Patricia said firmly. "Yes," Derek finally admitted. "I was seeing Ashley, but my marriage was already over." "Was it?" Patricia pulled out more documents. "Because, according to these text messages from your phone, you were telling your wife you loved her while simultaneously texting Ashley about the apartment you were renting for her. You were sleeping in the marital bed with your wife while paying for Ashley's rent. You were taking marital vacations with your wife while planning separate vacations with Ashley. That doesn't sound like a marriage that was already over. That sounds like a man living a double life." Derek's face was red. People in the courtroom were whispering. The judge looked disgusted. "Let's talk about money," Patricia continued. She pulled out the forensic accountant's report. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibit G. This is a comprehensive financial analysis conducted by a certified forensic accountant. It shows every dollar Mr. Mitchell spent over the malament, last 3 years, and where that money went." The judge accepted the document and started reading. His expression got darker and darker with each page. "Mr. Mitchell," the judge said, looking up. "According to this report, You spent nearly $150,000 on your mistress. Is that accurate? I didn't keep track of every dollar. The accountant did, the judge said coldly. $1,500 a month for rent. That's $18,000 a year for over 2 years. $36,000. A $45,000 car. Multiple vacations totaling over $30,000. Dinners, gifts, jewelry, another $40,000. The list goes on. Were you aware you were spending this much? Derek looked trapped. I wanted to make her happy. At the expense of your marriage, the judge said. At the expense of your marital savings and retirement. Money that belonged to both you and your wife. Money that should have been building your future. Together. Instead, you spent it on a woman you'd known for 2 years. Your Honor, I earned that money during your marriage, the judge interrupted, which makes it community property. Mrs. Mitchell contributed to your household, paid bills, enabled you to have the career that earned that money. And you repaid her by lying, cheating, and stealing from your marital assets. Derek's lawyer tried to salvage things. Your Honor, in a no-fault divorce state, an affair shouldn't impact asset division. This isn't about the affair, the judge said. This is about fraud, Mr. Mitchell submitted a divorce petition claiming assets should be split 50-50, but he failed to disclose that he'd already spent over half those assets on his mistress. He failed to disclose debt he'd taken on. He failed to be honest with this court or with his wife. That's fraud, counselor, and I won't tolerate it in my courtroom. I watched Derek's face as the reality sank in. He wasn't going to get away with it. His plan had failed, and it was all because I'd been smarter than he thought I was. After the hearing, after the judge ruled in my favor, after Derek stormed out of the courtroom looking furious and defeated, Patricia pulled me aside. You did good, she said. You stayed calm, you collected evidence, you didn't let him intimidate you. A lot of people would have just signed his papers and let him get away with it. I almost did, I admitted. When he first brought them home, part of me just wanted it to be over. Wanted to sign and move on and not have to deal with any of this. But you didn't, Patricia said. You trusted your instincts. You fought back, and you won. Be proud of that. I was proud. Maybe that makes me petty or vindictive, but I was proud that I'd stood up for myself. Proud that I hadn't let Derek walk all over me. Proud that I'd demanded justice and gotten it. The weeks following the court ruling were strange. Derek tried calling me a few times, leaving messages that ranged from angry to pleading. Angry that I'd destroyed him in court. Pleading for me to agree to a different settlement, to give him more money, to be fair. I never called him back. Patricia advised me not to engage, and I listened. Derek had his chance to be fair. He'd chosen fraud instead. Now he had to live with the consequences. The house sold faster than either of us expected. A young couple with a baby bought it for $10,000 over asking price. We had to split the closing costs, but even after that and after paying Patricia, I walked away with just over $200,000. I cried the day I signed the closing papers. Not because I was sad to let the house go, but because it was really over. 11 years of my life. 11 years of building a life with someone, and it all came down to signatures on paper and money transferred to bank accounts. But they were also tears of relief. I was free. Free from Derek's lies. Free from his betrayal. Free from walking on eggshells, wondering what he was hiding. Free to start over. Buying my condo felt like the first decision I'd made in years that was completely mine. No compromise, no discussion with a partner, no considering what someone else wanted. Just me, choosing a space that felt right for me. It's small, like I said. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, about 1,100 square feet, but it has big windows that let in tons of light, a little balcony where I can have my morning coffee, a updated kitchen with granite counters, hardwood floors throughout. It's in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors, and it's mine. Completely, totally mine. No mortgage hanging over my head, no debt. No Derek, coming home late and lying about where he's been. Just me and my space and my peace. I turned the second bedroom into an office. Painted it a soft blue, bought a nice desk and a comfortable chair, put up shelves for books and pictures. I work from home a couple days a week now, and it's nice to have a dedicated space for that. The first few months living alone were an adjustment. I'd been with Derek since I was 24. I didn't really know how to be an adult on my own. But I figured it out, learned to cook meals for one, learned to enjoy my own company, learned that being alone is different from being lonely. I started going to therapy too. Not because I was depressed or struggling, but because I wanted to understand how I'd ended up in a marriage where I missed so many red flags. Where I let myself be gaslit and manipulated, where I accepted less than I deserved for so long. My therapist, Dr. Chen, helped me see patterns I hadn't noticed. How I'd always been a people pleaser, always putting others' needs before my own. How I'd learned growing up that love meant sacrifice, that being a good partner meant not causing problems or making demands. How I'd internalized the idea that if I was just good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, everything would work out. But that's not how healthy relationships work, Dr. Chen told me. Healthy relationships require both people to show up, both people to be honest, both people to prioritize the relationship. You were doing all the work while Derek was doing whatever he wanted. That's not a partnership. She was right. I'd spent years making excuses for Derek's behavior, convincing myself that his flaws were just quirks I needed to accept. That expecting basic honesty and fidelity was somehow asking too much. That I was the problem for wanting more. You weren't the problem, doctor, Chen said. You were in a relationship with someone who didn't respect you. And that's on him, not you. Learning that, really internalizing it, was life-changing. It meant the divorce wasn't my failure. It was Derek's. He was the one who broke his vows. He was the one who chose lies over honesty. He was the one who destroyed what we'd built. I just had the strength to walk away when he did. About a year after the divorce, my friend Rachel set me up on a blind date. His name was Tom. He was a high school teacher, divorced with one kid who lived with his ex most of the time. Rachel swore we'd get along. I was nervous. I hadn't been on a first date in over a decade. I didn't know how to do this anymore. What do you wear? What do you talk about? Do you mention your divorce? Do you talk about your ex? Tom suggested we meet for coffee. Keep it casual. No pressure. I appreciated that. We met at a local coffee shop on a Saturday afternoon. He was nice looking. Not movie star handsome, just normal nice looking. Brown hair, kind eyes, an easy smile. He stood up when I walked in, shook my hand, asked what I wanted to drink, and went to order for both of us. We talked for 3 hours. About our jobs, our families, our divorces. He was honest about his marriage ending, about the mistakes he'd made, about what he'd learned. I was honest too, told him about Derek, about the affair, about the court battle. That must have been brutal, Tom said. It was, I admitted. But it was also empowering in a weird way. Standing up for myself, refusing to be a victim, walking away with my head held high. Good for you, he said, and he meant it. Too many people just roll over in divorces. Let their exes take advantage because it's easier than fighting. You fought. That takes courage. We went on a second date the next week. Dinner at an Italian place, then a walk by the river. He held my hand, and it felt nice. Comfortable. Easy. We've been together for a year now. It's not serious in the sense that we're not talking about marriage or moving in together. We're both happy taking things slow, but it's serious in the sense that we're honest with each other. We communicate. We respect each other's boundaries and needs. Tom knows I have trust issues after Derek. He's patient with that. He doesn't get defensive when I ask questions or need reassurance. He shows me his phone freely, tells me where he's going and who he's with. Not because I demand it, but because he wants me to feel secure. I'm not Derek, he told me once. I'm not going to lie to you or cheat on you. You deserve better than that. And I'm going to show you every day that you can trust me. And he does. Every single day, he shows up. He does what he says he'll do. He's where he says he'll be. He's honest about his feelings, his past, his life. It's such a stark contrast to Derek that sometimes it still surprises me. I told Tom about serving Derek in court, about the envelope with all the evidence, about watching Derek's case fall apart. Tom laughed. I would have paid to see his face, Tom said. This guy thought he had it all figured out, thought he'd get away with it. Then you showed up prepared and destroyed him. That's beautiful. Is it wrong that I enjoyed it? I asked, watching him lose. Seeing him realize I wasn't the pushover he thought I was. Not wrong at all, Tom said. He tried to cheat you. He tried to intimidate you. He tried to take advantage of you. You defended yourself. That's not wrong. That's self-respect. I've learned a lot in the past 3 years since Derek served me those papers. I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought, smarter than I gave myself credit for, more capable of handling challenges than I believed. I've learned that sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually blessings in disguise. Derek, betraying me felt like the end of the world at the time. But it freed me from a marriage that wasn't serving me. It forced me to stand up for myself in ways I never had before. It showed me what I was capable of when pushed. I've learned that justice isn't automatic. You have to fight for it. You have to be willing to do the work, gather the evidence, make your case. You can't just assume that truth will win out or that bad behavior will be punished. You have to actively pursue justice. And I've learned that moving on doesn't mean forgetting. I haven't forgotten what Derek did. I probably never will. But I've stopped letting it define me. I've stopped letting his betrayal make me bitter or cynical or afraid to trust. I'm not the same person I was when Derek and I were married. That woman was too accommodating, too willing to ignore red flags, too afraid of conflict to demand better treatment. The woman I am now knows her worth, knows what she deserves, and won't settle for less. Derek taught me that, ironically, by betraying me, he taught me to value myself. By lying to me, he taught me to demand honesty. By trying to cheat me in the divorce, he taught me to fight for what's mine. So in a weird way, I'm grateful, not for the pain or the betrayal or the years wasted, but for the lessons learned, for the strength discovered, for the life I've built on the other side of it all. I heard through the grapevine that Derek's still struggling, still working too. Jobs to pay off debt, still driving that used Honda, still living in his studio apartment. Ashley apparently got engaged to some rich guy she met at a country club. Derek isn't invited to the wedding. Part of me feels bad for him. He threw away everything for a relationship that lasted about as long as a carton of milk once the money ran out. He destroyed an 11-year marriage, burned through his savings, tanked his credit, all for nothing. But mostly, I just feel indifferent. Derek made his choices. He's living with the consequences. That's not my problem anymore. That's not my responsibility. I've got my own life to live, my own happiness to pursue. And I'm doing just that. Living, pursuing happiness. Being grateful for what I have instead of bitter about what I lost. My condo, my job, my friendships, my relationship with Tom, my financial security, my peace of mind. These are the things that matter now. These are the things I focus on, not Derek or what he did or what he lost. That chapter is closed. I've moved on. And when people ask me about the divorce, when they want to know how I recovered from such a devastating betrayal, I tell them the truth. I got smart. I got prepared. I got evidence. And when Derek tried to serve me and intimidate me and cheat me, I handed him an envelope that destroyed his entire case. I fought back. I stood up for myself. I demanded justice. And I won. That's not revenge. That's not being vindictive or cruel. That's just refusing to be a victim. That's just demanding fair treatment. That's just having enough self-respect to not let someone steal from you and lie to you and walk away clean. Derek thought he could humiliate me by having me served at work. Thought he could intimidate me into signing away my rights. Thought I'd be too embarrassed or too scared to fight back. He was wrong about all of it. And that envelope I handed his lawyer, the one with all my evidence, all my documentation, all my proof of his lies, and his fraud and his betrayal, that envelope was my way of saying, I see you. I know what you did, and you're not getting away with it. It was the best decision I ever made. Fighting back. Standing up. Refusing to be pushed around. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because I deserve better than a man who would cheat and lie and steal. I deserve better than a marriage built on deception. I deserve better than signing papers that would let my ex walk away with money he'd already spent on his mistress. I deserve justice. I deserve fairness. I deserve respect. And when I didn't get those things voluntarily, I took them. I fought for them. I demanded them. That's what that envelope represented. My refusal to be a victim. My insistence on being treated fairly. My determination to walk away from my marriage with my dignity and my finances intact. Derek tried to destroy me. Instead, I destroyed his case. I destroyed his plans. I destroyed his attempts to defraud me. And I walked away stronger, wiser, and richer than he ever expected. That's my story. That's my victory. That's my justice. And I'm not even a little bit sorry about it. Subscribe if you enjoyed this.